Yeah.
Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of the OKKO Club. Today we're
My,
talking
Ebby, you're looking very masculine today.
Oh.
do you like the picture?
I need to see the picture. Oh God, it's
Yeah, I
gonna
can't
go.
see it showing up on my feed yet.
It'll be up soon. Anyway, today we're discussing Log Horizon Season 2. And yes, Ebby is unfortunately with us today because she is very, very ill. The reason why we delayed this from last Saturday was partly because she was very, very ill then. And now she's well, we just had to go ahead without her. So everyone should go and wish her wishes. And we're also not joined by Ebby, but we are joined by Tristan again.
Yay!
Hey!
Tristan, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. It is. Oh, yeah, this is fun.
Apparently, you're very quiet, Alan, which makes a change.
Wait, was I? Oh. Okay, it wasn't that I was quiet, it's that I was off completely because I was recording footage on this and I had my microphone turned off.
Bravo! Bravo.
Did anyone hear me at all? That was probably like completely gone.
Very quiet, so unless it was picking it up from somewhere else for like, no reason.
Well, I'll do the whole intro thing again then. This is episode episode 30 of the OKKO Club. Today we are doing Log Horizon Season 2. We are not joined by Ebby because she is unfortunately very ill. She was ill on Saturday, which is why we delayed it to today, and now she's even more ill, and so she's asked us to go ahead without her. So you all go early 5 and wish her the best. Wish her for a speedy recovery. But today we are joined by Tristan. Asked you how you are, so they got that side of the conversation.
I'm horrible. Thank you, Alan.
Did my having my thing turned off suddenly change you from being great and excited to this is the worst thing
Ruined
ever?
my day!
Yeah, you had to redo the intro, man. Ugh.
2 intros for the price of 1. The first was for the hard of hearing, so they could just lip read me, and the second is for everyone else out there. Anyway, shall we get crack-a-lackin'
Yes.
on this jacket?
I've finally seen the picture. That's brilliant.
Yeah, man, it's pretty good. It's the most coy picture of Shiroway I could find. So Cam, what did you think of Log Horizon Season 2?
It was all right.
Mm.
Ups and downs, I think, is definitely the best way for me to describe this series in particular. Which is kind of similar to how the first season went. However, I feel like this one didn't do quite as well in my eyes. I have fonder memories of the first season. While there was some awesome stuff in it, I felt like the series took too long to get going, and that I really enjoyed were kind of staggered in amongst other things. So I mean, for prime example, I didn't like the fact that they started the whole raid thing with Silver Sword, and then in the middle of that juxtaposed an entire mini arc about Akatsuki, and then ended the Silver Sword thing. I didn't like that, and yeah, and then just a few episodes didn't do it for me, and there are other things that I was kind of unsure of, but that's more to do with specific characters, so I'll go into that in a bit. But yeah, so I still enjoyed it. It was fantastic, and like I say, when it was great, it was in fantasticness. I just felt like it was a bit clunky at parts, and that didn't ruin it for me, but yeah, tarnished, I think is a good word.
Tristan.
I'm kind of the same, in that I do think I enjoyed the first season a lot more. It's not that I didn't enjoy watching the second season, because I did, but there were times where it was just like I didn't feel the need to like constantly continue.
Yeah.
Because I was watching it, with the exception of like the last 8 or 9 episodes or so. I watched them as they were coming out, more or less, and then in scattered chunks over throughout the last couple of months. But yeah, it just kind of felt like where I wanted this second season to go after the first didn't get there. And while what we did have was kind of nice, I know it could have been better. And then, of course, the last couple of episodes, I was just like, really? Is that it?
Sort of just
Is that all we
peters out,
got?
isn't it?
Yeah, it was like, is that it? Is that where we're ending? Without any confirmation of a season 3? Really? Like,
That, I mean, that really does. It really
Why
makes
bother?
it feel like it's obviously the beginning of season 2 carries on pretty much straight away from season 1. There's a bit of a
and I
time
like
skip,
that. Yeah.
and it leads into, like you say, a potential, season 3. But it didn't really feel like anything got resolved in the second season.
No, like I even look back at the end of the season, season 1, when what's her name from the other country came over and had that wonderful talk with Shiro. Nothing really came. I was expecting like a fight between the two countries, and they were gonna like take over. And while some of that kind of, sort of showed up a bit, when she showed up again, during the Below Decks episodes, it was just. I thought that there was going to be a lot more of a bigger thing. There were a lot of side plots also that showed up that I was just like, oh, this could be really good. Oh, that's not how you did it.
Or in one particular example, this is really, really good. Oh, it's over.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway,
you what you think, Alan? It's your turn.
I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely agree with a lot of what you had to say, though. I think for me, Log Horizon Season 1 felt a lot more focused. It felt a lot more like it knew what it was doing, it knew where it was going. So that when it became to the end of Log Horizon Season 1, been brought up over the course of the whole show, were resolved, and then they gave you this sort of little teaser for something new for next time. And but coming into Season 2, as with you guys, I was expecting those things that got teased at the end of Season 1 to be sort of the core plot of Season 2. And Season 2 felt like it had a lot of, instead, sort of like quality, entertaining, like side stories, little arcs that weren't that relevant to the stuff from the first season. And I think the biggest thing that hurt the second season for me, I very much enjoy it, was that it just felt like it was the one in the middle.
Yeah.
They
did seem to stretch a lot, because like Cam mentioned the whole how they did the whole raid arc and they interspersed that with the Katsuki side story. But that was like the entire first half of the show.
Yeah.
Of this season, and it really did not need to be that long.
Yeah, it's just they picked up all these new things, they did stuff, and they sort of briefly touched upon the stuff that was brought up at the end of the first season, and then piled on loads more stuff. That basically means that when you get to the end of the second season, one of like the immediate last arc was resolved, but nothing that was brought up in the first season, or nothing like none of this new stuff has been. So much more so than the first season, this one can't exist without Season 3.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if Season 2 never happened, I could watch Log Horizon Season 1 and go, it's a shame there was that cliffhanger, we didn't get follow-up from it, but I could still get enough entertainment out of that show to be able to watch it as a standalone. But this can't exist without a Season 3.
No. I don't think I do again unless Season 3 came out. If I was to rewatch Log Horizon, I'd probably just watch Season 1, end it there, because it was just much more show. This seemed like if it wasn't for the fact that it was a full length 24, or was it 25?
25,
episodes?
yeah.
25. If it wasn't a full 25 episodes, it would have felt like it was one of those offshoot OVAs.
Yeah, just a really long one.
Yeah, just a really long one, like maybe like the Captain Tyler OVAs or something. But it wasn't that. It was a season. It was a full season. 2 in the title. So it's like...
Right.
So that's the overall disappointment thoughts.
Let's get cracking straight in there. So at the start of the show, we pick up where we left off, but they're having money trouble. Is all done, but they've got money trouble.
Actually, no, the goblin stuff wasn't all done. Wasn't that the whole reason in Akihabara for like the entire first half is because he was off with his guild dealing with the goblin problem still?
Anything relating to Krusty just saddens me.
I know.
Such a disappointment on so many levels.
Okay, let's talk about Krusty before we move into anything else. He was like one of the best characters from season 1. And in this season, we get them mentioning he's off somewhere. They show him a little bit.
He had one scene. Like one scene.
It's like, this guy, he's too good, we need to write him out.
And then he gets he gets eaten by a sword, and then he just comes back.
Yeah.
Presumably, he's got that lady's hand in his pocket.
This is the thing, right, though. They make him disappear, and they're like, oh, shit, where's Krusty gone? And the entire... Because this happens in, like, what, episode... Like, not even episode 10. If I remember
Yeah,
right.
no, this happens like the first
right
quarter
in the
of
first
the
act.
series. He just disappears. They assume he's alive, they hope he's alive, and we're just like, okay, he's probably alive to come back again later.
There are so many questions that could be raised, so many implications by the fact that he has been eaten by a demon scythe, and then he just turns up on the other side of the server.
The thing, it's not even the other side of the server. It's a different server altogether, because it's a different part of the world. That's how the game was like divvied up. And I was like, how does that even?
It just seemed a bit
happen?
boring,
Yeah,
really.
like,
Why do you teleport him?
The main thing is
thing?
that the entire reason it happened is a bit of a kick in the balls, because it is literally just sort of building on the whole weapons have flavor text now, and that
only
flavor
for them
text
to like completely ignore that past the
like, oh, we can just make our own
never
flavor
brought
text.
up again.
There's another thing as well that they bring up that could have been quite interesting, but they don't really touch on it again. Once again, another like plot lead that's probably going to come in far later on, with a character in particular, I assume. And that's the whole thing of, if you have different characteristics to what you have in the real world, they start becoming part of you. So the example that was given was, if you play as a female character, you will slowly start to develop female traits. No, slowly start to develop male traits. So the real you push through. I can't remember which way around it is.
I thought it was the opposite way.
Yeah, it's the traits of the character you're playing start to kind of become you.
Which is
completely.
sort of the only real way they showed that was with Trap Girl.
Yeah.
The thing is, even
I
with
didn't
Tetra,
like at all.
Oh god, Tetra annoying. Then they revealed that she was a boy, and I went, ha, that's funny. And then she was annoying again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shows up in literally episode 1, I think.
Like 2. I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
No,
basically
she shows up when the raid starts. So it was like 2 or 3.
she shows up when they go back to talk to Demicus.
Yeah,
And
and it's like she didn't even have an interesting thing. Like, she was just another healer, and I was like, five of those. She's not even that good. That's the thing, is like, she's not a good healer because they already have other healer characters. She's an idol, and our bard sings better than she does, even having an entire arc dedicated to that fact.
Invented a whole new song, bitch.
I know. That bothers me. There was also another character that actually I thought was going to be extremely disappointed by. What was her name? It was like Shiro 2. It was Shiro's female
Roy
character.
2. Yeah.
Roy 2.
Yeah. When she showed up, I was like, oh, okay. That's one of Shiroe's alts who has their own personality. That's cool. And I thought that because when we had the 1 or 2 episodes over in the China server, we had that one maid character who used to be a real money trader bot.
Oh, cool. I was like, that is a really interesting idea.
Yeah. And then, so when Rui 2 showed up, I was like, oh, so this is going to be great, because she's an alt of Shiroe. But then, no, she's not actually an alt of Shiroe. She's just some alien that's using the what?
From the moon!
From the moon. The wizards that came from the moon.
Man, they're linked to leaving the game, alright? They're important. And she's a
So
vampire.
we should contact them,
She's
only to basically be able to contact our friend over in the other server, who just happened to be at a TV station that just happened to be.
What annoyed me was the subplot on the China server with those guys was probably one of my favourite bits.
Yeah, because it was different.
Yeah, it was different. It felt more like an adventure, and that's why I like the side plot involving the kids as well, because it like the original series was.
Yeah, they didn't really have. Well, that's the other thing. Is like I like the beginning of the whole the younger members going off and doing their thing, but then near the end of it, I was just like, yeah, you can stop now.
Yeah,
like when
they had that whole thing where they introduced the shit, what they called now, the knights that can't, the knights that have the portable temple.
I just thought that was.
That's what they're called. And
like at the beginning, I thought that was going to be kind of cool because I could have I thought, okay, so what's probably going to happen is one of them's going to die. They're going to get respawned by this mobile citadel thing, and then they're going to come back weird. Yeah. And then we're going to have this whole thing about that. No.
Well, to be fair, that could still happen, because they're not dealt with. They're not under the rug yet.
I know, but that's the thing, is like all these things coulda, but didn't.
Yeah, easily happened in that time.
But we don't have a season 3 yet.
They start off character arcs as well, like Samurai Boy. What's his name now? Toya.
Yeah.
Toya? Yeah.
Yeah.
He had that whole thing because he has that confrontation with the leader of that Odyssey Knights crew. And it kind of starts to develop this change in him because you learn a bit more about him and it's like what he was like in the real world. And he actually starts to become a little bit of an interest, the whole thing with Nurihara of I can see right through you, bitch. but they just don't go anywhere with it.
No, and I think a little bit of me in the back of my head immediately got sad when we saw anything related to the real world. Because I was just like, this is the point where things go downhill in every other show that does this. When Hack did it, it went downhill. When SAO did it, it went really downhill. I was like, if you're gonna have it in this separate world, stay in the world.
I don't know. I actually read this the little flashbacks that they did of people's pasts. Because it was a way to develop their characters beyond what we can see on face value, I guess. And because, like, with how Log Horizon is and how it's not literally something like SAO where it's very explicitly shown how they get in the world and very like clear how they're going to get. But in Log Horizon, from the get-go, it's very vague and everything, and there's never really anything spoken about what happened before and how it happens. So sort of like showing their histories and everything, like what's his face, the leader of the crazy blonde-haired guy, where he does his big motivational speech on everyone on one of the later episodes. The leader of the guild that goes with them.
Oh, yeah, the leader of Silver Sword.
Yeah,
I've forgotten his name.
But yeah, where he does his big motivational speech, which went on a bit too long, but it was still
That entire episode I thought was far too long.
Yeah, it was definitely too long.
Like right when I heard the credit music, I was like, that can't be right. This has to be the halfway point of the episode, right?
We're all scumbags.
I missed the title card or something.
We're all scumbags. It's okay because we're scumbags together.
Yeah. and even that, like, I enjoyed the fact that he was doing it went. I didn't like how long it took, and I also didn't like how badly that belittled gamers generally. He's like, we're pieces of shit, alright? No one likes us. We don't have friends. This is where we live.
I think where I stand in terms of the real world stuff is somewhere in between the pair of you. Because while I don't like how explicit it was with what it revealed, I feel like it would have been a good something to maybe like filter in. So when like Akatsuki's death is probably closer to what I was looking for, in that it kind of drip feeds you information rather than with Toya, Minori having a flashback going, oh yeah, Toya doesn't have any legs. I mean, he does. He
does, but he's...
he's confined to a wheelchair, which I assume will become a plot point later on when they talked about the whole character from the real world bleeding into the other world. But that's
the thing, though, is like all these different things. I feel like one of the main subplots throughout the entire show is, do these people want to go back?
Yeah.
Because like when the whole motivational speech, that was basically because, well, in the real world we spend all of our time here, so this is what we do. Let's get good. And then near the end, like, Toya had the whole thing where it was VLT was in a wheelchair and so forth. So then you're just like, okay, well, he's gonna want to stay here then and not go back to the wheelchair. But then he's like, no, I'm going back, and I'm like, okay, interesting. Go on, and then they don't.
Just lost interest so much in this place that they're all emotionless and just like want to do nothing but get back to the real world by dying over and over again.
I just want to interject for a second because someone's complaining that they heard a spoiler.
What, from the show?
As in on the stream.
Go away if you don't want spoilers. This show is
the point.
It's a discussion about everything.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that'd be we didn't say at the start, but that's kind of goes with the territory at this point.
Anyway, I just felt like it needs to be said. Toya, and yeah, the whole discussion about whether or not they want to stay or they want to go home, I felt like that got really driven home in the last couple of episodes to the point where it became the main focus. But it came so late that it just fell.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea was interesting when the girl from the Chinese server was all like, well, why can't we have both? Why isn't there a way that we can just transfer between the two? Which brought this kind of interesting third perspective. But once again, it was just right in there at the end. All the interesting stuff was just far too late.
Yeah.
I think the only problem with that, the adding in the whole, well, we can just do both thing, is it sort of loses the duality of ability of like there being a situation where they're trying to campaign to get home. Some people don't want to get home. And it gets in the way, and that could have been quite an interesting little back and forth.
It does seem like a bit of a cop-out, doesn't it? If that is the way they go with, that's kind of the cop-out answer. It's like, oh, they can have both.
Yeah, no, I just prefer them to say, no, you can't get home. This is how we deal with that fact.
You can have neither world. You will die.
You will die.
We're all gonna live on the moon for eternity.
Yeah.
Everyone just like forgets that that they used to be in the old world, and then like in Log Horizon season 12, they end up back in the real world, and that's the apocalypse, and they're like, what the hell is this place? Where's my UI? Like,
what happens, right, is that the like alchemist mechanic guy develops an online game, and the online game is called Not Elder Tale, and it's world, and then like say they wake up and they're just there again, but yeah. It's the world we heard of in legends that our
Yo, dog,
ancestors were trying to get home to.
It's Elder Tale.
Elder
Anyway, let's dial things back.
Okay.
Talk about some few things that happened. The stuff that happened at the beginning. So when they go back to where Demicas is, and he's recruiting people, and I really enjoyed that interaction. When Demicas is.
I like Demicas' sub arc the entire time because he just spends this whole time royally pissed off because of the first meeting between him and Shiroway where he wouldn't pronounce his name properly. I was like, that was a nice throwback. I like that. Because at first it was just like, no, he's just a pissed off guy. And you're like, okay, that's just because he was an asshole. But then he's like, no, I want Senpai to notice me.
Yeah.
I want him to actually say my name. He did it, everything was solved. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
I just adored the kind of off-camera development they gave to Demicas, and just like you can sort of know that he's been seething and scathing over Shiroway this entire time they've been away, and when he comes back, and it's just like he hates him, but he's also like, and like when Shiroway's giving him the boosts and stuff, and in the raid,
he's just like,
not this again.
And then he gets a bird.
Yeah, he does. Like he marries a woman of the land, so he wants to stay there for real.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, I like Demicas. He was kind of, I mean, he was always kind of, I mean, he was a villain in the first season, but he really did kind of come, even when he was pseudo-threatening, he was still a bit of a jokey villain because he was like, oh, take me seriously, goddammit.
Yeah.
And nobody did.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a natural progression on from that, I guess. He sort of ended up being like the Vegeta of this series in a way.
I guess so. And it was good that they didn't just do, because a lot of times in shows like this, where you have a villain that then just becomes one of the good guys, like starts fighting with them, it's more of a 180 a lot of the time, wherein they'll actually like understand that this is what they need to be doing now, and then they just go along with it. But he was always very defiant. He kept to who he was. He didn't change who he was as a. He just started fighting for different reasons, and I really respected that.
That was nice, yeah.
Right. And so we move on to the raid itself.
Yeah.
And how it's like.
I just thought it was far too long.
Yeah.
It would have been so much better if it was in one piece.
Yeah.
Like one arc, I think, not split.
I wonder how long it would have ended up being if there was no gaps in it.
Yeah. Well, like if they removed if it was all one, and then you just removed things like that entire episode for the motivational speech.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it I liked. I liked how they were dealing with that first big major boss, and then I liked the amount of time spent on the actual final raid boss. And how that started screwing things over. I liked all that, but there was a lot of fluff in the middle that I think was just not supposed to be there. I almost think it's because they kept going back to it during the ski arc, but they didn't really want to go into it.
There was no real progression.
Yeah,
it
was just like, we've been fighting for the last 3 weeks. What? What do you mean you've been fighting for 3 weeks? Oh, wow.
Conceptually, I do really like the sort of idea of going back and forth, because it sort of shows you just how long it is, and like how arduous a task it is. It's just that what they swapped to, I don't think made full potential of it, because like if they did do it all in one chunk, it wouldn't have been able to properly show just how hard it was, I guess, because when they're sort of like going back and forth and being like, yeah, we got wrecked again, and so I'd say I actually prefer it being like this than if they actually had the two arcs that were happening separately. Because then it'd be like, that's over, and then here's what was happening whilst that was happening. And that would have been a bit disjointed.
If they were going to do it that way, I feel like they should have done a bit of one and a bit of another, like jumping. Because if they're happening at the same time, they should have been jumping back and forth.
What I think would have been good. What they could have done then is then have them in two separate chunks, but then have moments where characters from both chunks communicate. So then you could show, like, Shiroway's like having a meet call from somebody over in the city.
We did get that a little bit with him and Akatsuki.
Yeah,
just not that much.
Yeah, not that much. He really talked to Akatsuki. He like almost never specifically talked to Akatsuki. He talked to other people, but he didn't talk to her. So it would have been one of those things where we're watching the entire raid arc, and then we see him constantly calling other people, and then we're like hearing little snippets of what's going on, but then it doesn't really do, and we don't really learn much. And then when that's done, here's what's been going on over in Akihabara, and then over the course of that one, we see the other ends of the call. I think that would have been much better.
So I like I mean, I don't mind the whole idea of, chopping back and forth between one of the two. That works fine. What I didn't like was just the way it was done. It was half of one, then all of the other bit that was happening simultaneously, and then the end. It just seemed a bit like we're just going to shove that in there. I probably would have enjoyed that a lot more, and it would have still given the same impression of this is taking a bloody long time. I mean, I know that the thing with Akatsuki and the crazy royal guard bloke probably did happen in a much shorter span of time.
It did, because I think that's the thing. Like, the raid happened over the course of like a month and a half. But the thing with Akatsuki, like, there were a couple of episodes before it like really hit the meat of it, but it just took the place over like 48 hours.
Yeah.
It was just like all around Christmas.
Oh, it was Christmas, yeah.
Which means she was like doing some crazy power level training to get her teaching or whatever it was.
I actually just want to say, did anyone else when Akatsuki goes into the place to buy that sword and it wasn't there because it's Christmas? I was like, is Shiro bought her a sword for Christmas? Isn't that lovely?
I thought that as well.
That's literally what I thought, and then it goes into.
I didn't think that because he was gone. I would have thought that maybe somebody else that was still there bought it for her, but I'm not sure who. And then it just
also bought it when they had money troubles. I suppose that would be a bit counterproductive, wouldn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
But money troubles don't come in when it's his wonderful Kohei.
It's true.
So the actual sort of action parts of the raid itself, I thought were brilliant. Because
the thing is, action in Log Horizon has always I always really enjoy the action.
And I was a little worried about that because they switched production houses. Yeah. So I was like, thinking, okay, how's this going to affect things? But it still worked out rather well.
Yeah, and I think more so than in the first season, they really hammered home the whole MMO tactics and assigning roles and doing all that. That was so good, because with the stuff we had in Season 1, we never had a full-scale...
Yeah, we always had like 4-man light parties.
Yeah,
and
we had little sort of small skirmishes and stuff, but in this it proper does nail it in, and it did a of it.
I think the difference is, because in Season 1, they seem to focus more on the individual mechanics of like moves and stuff like that. So you went through like Shiro's skill set, and he has this move and he has that, and this is what it does. And
everybody had like 2 or 3 abilities that they focused.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas in this one, it was more based around kind of mechanics and terminology in MMORPGs as a whole,
and how groups of people do things and take things down and organize and so forth.
And gold sellers.
Yeah. I still wish that would have been a really nice arc. But no, it was like 5 minutes in one episode, never to be mentioned again.
That was a freaking turtle man. That was awesome. Leonardo.
He was a frog.
He was a frog, but he was clearly a Ninja Turtle. He even said Cowabunga.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
But if he's a frog, I can call him Sergeant Frog, so...
Frog. I love that guy. Leonardo was great. And he was American.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was.
Let's talk a little bit about the Akatsuki arc itself.
Okay.
And just what went on there, because I think like one of the like weaknesses of this arc is that you didn't have a lot of what made Akatsuki great, and that a lot of what makes Akatsuki wonderful is her sort of like her back and forth with people, and this was very much her solo to an extent. But without.
I almost think that this was kind of them trying to change what Akatsuki was about, because even not just in her arc, how she interacted with a lot of other people were either direct copies of like jokes of what they did in Season 1, like anything with Natsuki. They just like copied that like wholesale. But then other times, like near the end, like one of the last episodes, and this sticks, but like when Shiroe was talking with some of the female members from the other place about that that one guy, the marriage guy, who's just like, make me love you, and then he...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That guy. And she's just like agreeing with them, like she's one of them, but then she's not. I didn't know what the hell was going on with that. Do you remember that at all?
No,
I'm getting
100%.
blank.
Yeah, I watched that earlier today. I get what you mean. It did just kind of seem like she was blending in with that lot.
Yeah.
Not really.
And then admitting that she has nothing to do with them, and I was like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's almost like what they've been doing with Akatsuki. It's like, we know she's a main character, but she doesn't feel like a main character anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of just became the fact that she's the token character, because of how popular she is, I feel they need to just crowbar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as I said before, I think the main brunt of it is that what's always made Akatsuki so great is what she does with Shiroway, how she acts around Shiroway, what she does with him. But when you take Shiroway away from her, that's a good chunk of what her character is gone as well.
Like that bit where she randomly spawned a stepladder so that she could scold him. That was great.
Yeah.
And she was just standing at eye level with him, being like, "Fucking
Yeah.
yeah, exactly." I mean, she's a ninja after all.
But obviously, the best part of this arc was how it ended, where she unlocks that new skill and does the whole shadow thing, and that was badass.
That was cool. I mean, I think the whole thing with, because they introduced the concept of the teachings in this arc, which I felt was just
only to then never bring it up again.
Yeah, exactly. But it just seems like it's the Log Horizon language for bullshit. We've got these rules that are in place by our abilities, but this is how us being from the real world means that we can just ignore that completely and do other stuff.
Well, I guess it's sort of a splinter of the whole thing from season 1, where they go into like how you can put the whole real world stuff in, make your own stuff, make your own spells, and that's now this. But I guess it wasn't sort of done with as much class as it was done in the first season.
Yeah, it seemed very kind of like, it just like, we want to give Akatsuki, just gonna have her invent this move that wasn't in the game before, and then like we're gonna have this person use shields as stepping stones in the air.
Hey man,
I was actually sitting there when Akatsuki got that power. I was sitting there thinking, oh, what's Shiroway gonna get?
A magic staff scythe thing.
He's going to be able to turn his like thorns of light into like a summon dragon that like shoots more thorns of light.
Turn into more summons, which in turn shoot more.
Oh, actually no, he'll turn the thorns of light into a Nyanta, and then he'll use the thorns of light, and then he can do the combo attack on his own
without Nyanta being there. Perfect.
And the thorns of light can cook for him.
This is perfect.
See, we should write Log Horizon.
And this is why Shiroway is such a good solo player, because
the villain of this arc actually being one of the Royal Knights gone crazy, like this sort of protection thing.
I was waiting for something like that to happen. I felt like that was something that was going to come across at some point, because this is a thing that has been established from season 1, which is if a player goes out of line, these guys turn up and sort them out.
Yeah.
So with the whole dichotomy between the adventurers and the people of the land, where do these people stand? They're kind of like the people of the land's trump card, as it were. Felt like it could have been dealt with a bit. Like, I was really hoping that it was a royal guard gone crazy, but it wasn't. It was just a bloke that was maintaining them that went crazy
and
stole their armor.
Yeah.
There were two things about the arc that I really didn't like. One, I didn't like how the guys that actually suddenly were like, "No, this is your problem. Deal with it." I didn't like that.
The Kunie guy, he was just like, "Oh yeah, sorry."
And then I didn't like even more that the only solution they came up was we're just gonna remove the magical barrier around the city now. Good luck. Have fun with that. That's like all we got. And then I thought, okay, well then there's gonna be like this whole big thing of how now they have to defend against all this shit that's gonna come and start attacking the town because the shield's gone.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that sort of is coming. With like crazy people coming in.
Sort of, but it wasn't
with the
really.
Geniuses.
Yeah. That was what happened on the back of that.
It was sort of, but I was more so of an offhand comment saying, "Oh, now these things come in." But I was like thinking more like large scale.
Yeah.
Like something now actually in Akihabara.
The issue that I take with the logic behind turning the magic circuit off is. Like, the Kunie guy was far too complicit and was just like, yeah, okay, I'll turn the barrier off. When you think about it, that barrier and the Royal Knights, the ones that aren't crazy, are the reason why the players can't just go on a rampage. And he just turns it off without a second thought. So they've lost the Royal Guard now. They can't use them in Akihabara. So what's to stop a random player from going, fuck the people of the land. Dead.
Hey man, they said that it'll take a couple of years to get back. They'll get it back up totally by season 5.
Was it like 20 years or 1,000 years? I can't remember how long.
They said something ridiculous like 10.
A ridiculously long time.
If Shiroway gets on the job though, he can probably do it in half an hour.
Yeah, he'll just write a contract being like.
No, he'll get to just come up with some magical device and it just turns back off.
Yeah.
He'll use his magical scribe powers and be like, this contract is. As long as I change my socks every other Wednesday, the magic barrier will be up.
No, what he'll do is he'll just get some parchment, he'll draw a light switch, and he'll just pop it on the wall and flick it, and it'll be like, hey, they're back.
Hey!
And
I
then we
didn't
have
think that would work. That's amazing.
on the
For the first season of Log Horizon, pretty much displays Shiro having the power of a god. At the end, bringing back the whole, back Rundle House Code from the dead and making him an adventurer.
House of Code.
There wasn't enough of him in this season. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's beyond the point. He basically displayed godlike powers and is defeated by a lack of money.
Yup.
Yeah.
And then his plan to get the money is to get it from where.
And then when he gets there and they get the money, doesn't even want it. He's like, yeah, keep it.
Yeah. He does
Well,
this
that was
like
kind of
fast
the
one
thing.
thing.
There was a
That
point
the
to
thing,
it,
though,
but it
because
just
they
seemed a
gave
bit.
the ownership of Akihabara back to the server, so then they don't have to pay the maintenance costs.
Yeah.
Because now the server owns it and it just pays itself, and that's kind of cool and all. But then I was sitting there thinking, just like, okay, well, if they gave Akihabara back to the server, that means they don't own the guild hall anymore. Horizon's trump card for the round table,
Yeah.
so
well,
that everybody would follow the rules.
I guess it's just that he needed that to get people started, and now everyone's on his page and understands what he is. They're not going to revolt.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but they still could. It just
They
seems
still
like
could.
It's like saying, oh, well, first you have to follow this king now because this king has this thing, and then suddenly the king doesn't have it anymore. Why can't I do better?
Because democracy, all right.
Because
I
democracy.
feel like as well. They mentioned something at the end. I can't remember if this is true or not. I'm fairly sure that I remember at the end of season 1 when Shiroi confronts Nureha. Nureha says, "Oh yeah, I see you bought your guild hall. That's cute. We bought the cathedral. So if anyone dies, they basically owe us billions."
Yeah, and things like that. They never bring that up
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
I was like,
but
that's such a big
sure,
thing.
If they give everything back to the server, surely that's a major threat.
Yeah. They gave everything in their country back to the
Yeah.
server. They didn't give everything in all the countries.
They do this. They kind of introduce that, and it's like, right, okay, well they need to secure the cathedral then in case somebody buys it out from under them, and they just don't.
Well,
They're just like, nah, it's
I
fine.
think it was set. I think it was set up in a way so it's given back to the server and couldn't be bought by anybody again. So that kind of
So basically,
stops-
that whole plot point that was in season 1 has just been neatly tucked away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
a
have to
little
visit. They just wrote it out, and they had to do a whole wide-scale raid to be able to do that. Yeah, it's funny.
I was just looking through and seeing what else there was to talk about in this first half of the show, but it is literally that entire
It's
and
the
the cat ski in the
Valentine's Day
middle.
episode.
Yeah, the Valentine's Day episode's afterwards though. That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's the one immediately after.
So that's 13 or 14.
13. So
Would have made more sense for it to be 14.
it's true actually.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. They could have made episode 14, yeah, and then they could have had 2 episodes of William's motivational speech. And furthermore, we will win
We will.
Allow me to reiterate.
everything I just said. In conclusion,
But I really did
dude.
like that final raid fight, though. That was a really nice fight.
It was
I
the
liked-
actual fight itself. Once they knuckled down and did it, it was really
yeah,
cool.
it was like
They did
before
like the whole
motivational
idea of
speech.
yeah
Before the motivational
like-
speech, they went in, they did this whole thing, they brought the guy down to like half health, they were finding out new mechanics, sure, we're gonna deal with them, and suddenly 2 more bosses
Yep.
come in, and they're like, we're
I was like,
fucked.
and they're just like, oh shit.
And then you're like,
Can you
this
imagine-
is the point. In the raid that always inevitably happens when you think you have it, and then something comes out of nowhere, and you have to start over. I was like, that's perfect. And then we had the motivational speech. That's unfortunate.
Yep. In the midst of all of this, actually, we had the whole thing with Akatsuki and Shiroi on the moon when they had both died, which I thought
Yeah.
was nifty because we hadn't actually before seen what happens when someone dies properly. We just see
Yeah,
like
because
their
no
their
characters
back.
have
Yeah.
actually died at all. Natsuko, I think. Well, no, Natsuko has died now because he was part of the raid, and everybody in the raid died at one point.
Yeah.
But Shiroi, the point where they showed it to us, that was the first time he actually died in game. And it just happened to be at the exact same time. That was kind of bullshit.
It's so they could have the conversation, obviously.
I guess.
conversation, and Akatsuki could do a little dance.
But it was like things like that they never explained because like they both died at the same time, so they were able to meet up on the moon, and yet nobody else was on the moon. But then we have this whole next arc about how these guys constantly try to kill themselves so that they can go to the moon. Do they meet each other on the moon? Like,
I think this was just how important the moon is
I guess.
because they were just showing it and like
Apparently
people,
there are colonies on the moon.
there's
But
lots
all
of
we
shit
saw
on
was the Sea of Tranquility or something. I don't know.
and the like sort of fragments of memories in the sky.
Yeah.
I noticed that they did the whole thing of Akatsuki did the shattery thing, all the memories go away. Shiro didn't do that. Shiro's memories are too good for that.
It's true. He's too smart to lose memories. Either that.
Keep them in there.
But yeah, Valentine's Day.
That was a good episode.
Magic love fruit, right?
It was quite funny, actually.
It was. I found it quite entertaining.
The thing is, the more fillery episodes were quite good, and I did enjoy them. They made me chuckle. But I think on the back of the clunky first half, I was just like, oh, just get.
It was amusing though, because it's just like everyone going after Shiroe, everyone doing this. That bloody apron that lets you cook.
The honeymoon.
The honeymoon
Newlyweds
apron.
honeymoon apron. And all
that was another. That was another thing. It was like there were so many like romantic triangles. Like Shiroe has like 2 or 3 romantic interests. Natsuko has. I'm like, why? Why do you have to have triangles and squares?
Why do one of them have to be Tetra? Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And why did it? How has found out that she's a bloke yet? Like, does that mean that's going to be a plot point for later?
Because he's a bit thick. That's all it is. I think that's literally all it is. It's just he's a bit thick, and nobody has the heart to tell him. Even though he'd probably like it if somebody told him. That guy who is like all over you is literally a guy.
The thing is though, like, it wouldn't even have that big of a deal because like he doesn't even like her. He's still going after Mariel the whole time, and just like when he does find out, what's going to happen? Is he going to go, oh, all right, get off me?
Yeah, it's like he was going after Mariel. Mariel really liked Natsuko, so it's like that should be done.
It was one of those things like when you get like take Shiroe for example. You got Shiroe, you've got Minori, you've got Akatsuki, and they both fancy Shiroe, but obviously don't know where Shiroe's affections lie, so that makes a bit more sense. But with Natsuko and Mariel, you've got an established relationship there, and then you try and just like crowbar Tetra in, and it's not even like she's getting in the way. It's because obviously there'd be more drama attached to that. It is just literally she's there to be a nuisance, and it's not like Natsuko is considering going with Tetra and leaving Mariel. And it's not like she is actually genuinely a threat at all.
Yeah.
So why is it there?
Because we need a character to be annoying.
Because it'd be funny.
Comic relief.
Why don't we have Natsuko say pants again and have him? That's also funny.
I just want to say that there
is. Or be hit by like some random object because Akatsuki's like 2 cities over.
Yep.
She just threw it really hard.
There's time in the show where he says pants and she doesn't kick him and she's standing near him. It's like, why not?
Maybe there's an outer radius. If he says it right next to her, she just doesn't notice. But if he takes a step back and then says it, she's like BAM!
Maybe. She didn't have enough distance.
Exactly, yeah.
Unless I'm remembering this wrong, there was a scene where they were both in the same city. He was about to say pants, but she was like half the city did her teleport thing, whacked him into an alley, and teleported back.
Maybe it's just really lucky guesses. She's just like, I bet Natsuko's saying pants right now, I'm gonna go kick him.
Well, it's like that thing in Japan where you sneeze if someone says your name. It's like that.
It's just a natural reflex.
It's one of her teachings.
Plot twist. Maybe it's one of Natsuko's teachings.
Oh.
And he's secretly doing it to himself. He's secretly doing it to himself. But yeah.
Anyway, after old Valentine's Day, we get back onto plot again. And we see the plant Highwooden, guys. I have no idea how to pronounce that.
It's at this point.
It's H.W.
Hayden. It's at this point that I would like to say that I was really disappointed with Nurei.
Yeah.
Because at the end of season 1...
She was pro in that scene.
She was badass. She was a total bitch. She had all the power. Shiro was obviously like unnerved by her, and she's like amazing. She's like, yeah, I'm a fox. I've got illusion powers. You ain't got shit on me. I'm and I give this air of really cool. It's like, yeah, I want to see more of her. The more of her that I got was under the thumb of like this puppet that was being beaten up, and I didn't like it. She just became this pitiful character.
She got her fruit stepped
only
on.
at the end.
Yeah.
For Intix to be like, wait, you're talking back to me?
Yeah.
What are you? And then this guy's just like, no, you're not doing that anymore. And I'm like,
yeah. And it's just...
And this entire season saying that Intix is the one actually in control, but you're not actually going to show any of that at all? What?
And then all of a sudden Nureha's in power again. It's just like, what are you trying to do with this character?
Yeah.
It's annoying. And that, like I say, that really annoyed me, because at the end of the first season, I was like, oh, I love.
It's gonna
this
be
woman.
amazing.
Yeah, can't wait to see her again. This woman is awesome. Oh, and now she's crying.
Yeah, it was it was weird what they did with that, because that was like as I said earlier, the biggest thing I didn't like about this series was how it didn't do anything with the stuff it introduced in the first season really, and sort of just made us ask more questions. Like none of that stuff was resolved. It was just made more confusing.
They just kind of they did the whole thing of, oh yeah, she's just a fight. Well, that's a bit crap.
Yeah.
Because Intix is this character that we don't really know anything about, so it's like, now she's a bitch.
We know like nothing about them. They had the one scene in that room, and then it panned around and actually gave us the little pop-up dialogue things that's
And
far
they
too
weren't
fast.
even they weren't even high level. They were all like level 50. It's like, what are you playing at?
The only thing that we know about them is that a few of the core memory Tea Party.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which
That's
was
it.
a semi big deal. And on the topic of that, how disappointed were you two of what they did with Kaname?
I like the fact that they're like, oh, she's here, and I like the one episode that she was in, but other than that,
I just thought she was such a big deal. Like how she's been there, she was the leader of this thing, the backstory of her and Shiroway being a thing. And then they just like go, here she is. She's Genki as fuck, she punches stuff. At the
she's
end,
in
like
China.
yeah, and then like when her and Shiroway have their little talk at the end, it's just like,
I've had a baby, don't you know?
yeah, it just felt a bit anticlimactic from how they built up her character in season 1.
She wasn't the
I was
character that I thought she was going to be. She was still a nice character, but the kind of badass character I was expecting. I was like, I wasn't expecting something like for her to be like Meiji Kusanagi or something, but I was hoping for her to be like that kind of character, the character that, because we know how badass Shiroway is. This is somebody who was the leader of a group that Shiroway was part of. Like, we've always seen Shiroway in the leader role. We never actually saw him in the support role of a group. So I actually had high expectations. And then I don't think she met them.
Like I think seeing her and Shiroway interact properly is that's going to be a big draw to season 3 when it happens. And
well, we already saw it at the end of season 2, and it wasn't anything special.
Yeah, but it wasn't them sort of actually actively working together. It was just them talking to each other. And I think
suppose.
like because I don't think we've seen her true colors really, aside from her being like this ridiculous amaze ball of positivity and all that, and we didn't really see anything that could potentially put her in the position she's been built up to.
You know what she kind of reminds me of?
Who?
An overly positive Haruhi.
Yeah, a little bit.
She's like, I want to get this thing done. Let's go do it. Let's punch things until it's done.
I guess from the little snippets that we got from season, like kind of overly Genki, I'm gonna punch stuff. And my mind, I kind of went, what's the only kind of character type that's gonna get Shiro, to kind of make him throw a bit of a wobbly? And it's going to be someone like that who's really kind of overbearing, in that sense. But I was expecting a bit more authority from a character, from a character that's been built up this much.
Yeah.
But like you say, she's just like, yeah, just punch stuff and hang out.
But I mean, it's not even like who she was as a character that disappointed me. It's what they did with her, which was essentially nothing. Aside from like she's there, and like they still make a big deal about her. Like it's not just that she was a big deal to Shiroway. Like the other Tea Party members who were in Hyoden were like going off making a big deal of like searching for her, turning into a horse. Like making sure they knew what. I don't know. I just she was definitely entertaining.
Hide one as a threat, and I thought that it should have been. They even had this whole thing of, oh, we've teamed up with the people of the land now. And I'm like, okay, so that's going to be a plot point. Not really dealt with at all.
That general woman who was a complete badass, who was basically what Nureha should have been.
Yeah.
Who basically, she got beaten technically by Nyanta twice. If it wasn't for that other guy to save her ass.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, well, okay, so you've pissed all over Nureha's chips, and now you've introduced this new character who is kind of filling that same role as being this like kind of badass female who's like, yeah, rrr. And then she just gets defeated twice straight away, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm a person of the land, but I'm gonna kill you, and like,
yeah, that was another thing. They never really explained like how the people of the land level up in skill in the same way. Like they talked about it a bit with Runduru, because he was a person of the land who was able to blend in with adventurers a bit, but he wasn't actually an adventurer. and again until
Yeah, he
contracts.
still followed the same rules as a person of the land.
Yeah, but they never really explain that. So are people of the land basically adventurers? They just aren't. They just were like, they were born here.
Yeah.
That's the difference, and they can't respawn. Is that the only difference between them? Or I don't know. They never went there, and they should have, because suddenly we have a person of the land who is supposed to be a villain threat, but then they don't explain anything.
It felt like they just kind of used, because they wanted a relationship between Nyanta and the other guy whose name that I've forgotten. He was kind of like,
Kazuhiko, I believe.
that's it. Yeah,
I think it's because with some things they go into so much wonderful explanation of things. Like back in the Raid arc, they explained all this MMO backstory and all this other stuff so that you both understood it and could enjoy what they were about to show you. But then all these other things they like lightly touch on but don't explain when you feel like they should have.
Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. The next little thing that pops up is our little guys going on their little quest to get their magic bag.
best bit,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Best bit. Because
Which was the
it
entire
has,
second half of the series.
Yeah, it literally condenses everything that the story should have had in kind of adventure. Shit kicks off. Oh my god. And then they resolve, well, they sort of resolve it, and they grow as characters in the way. In a way that's interesting. They meet new people, because they meet Roe too, and they meet Nureha, who's not being Nureha at the time, and they have these interactions.
I didn't get why she did that. Nothing came out of it. Like I was expecting her to try and get a tactical advantage over Shiroi or something. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, she didn't really do a whole lot.
Instead, she got like smarted by a kid.
Yeah.
A kid samurai.
Which sort of leads
toy
us
store.
to another thing. Is like, do we even know at this point? Well, we know what Plant Hyrodin really kind of want, but do we know what Nureha wants specifically?
No.
Shiro, that's really all
Yeah.
I'm getting out of it. She's just obsessed with Shiro. You get out of it, and it almost seems like she's doing the whole I can't be your lover, so I'm your enemy for you to notice me. Kind of, if I can't get your attention by being your friend, I'm gonna get your attention by being your foe. But at the same time, not doing anything.
You see, Nureha would have been a cool person to make a Shiroi alt account. Then wouldn't.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that actually would have been really cool if she was
Yeah.
Shiroi's alt account.
she
Could have been
this
like,
is a cunning ruse.
because she's basically, because then she would basically be him, but for whatever reason has the motivations to not do or not have the morality that he did.
Yeah, like evil Shiroi would be
Yeah.
a bad.
Maybe he was the ult that he used to be a dick. It was his troll ult.
Yeah.
It just takes on the properties of someone who's a massive dick.
How much of a kick did everyone have the little sort of half of the episode where they were going around getting their items for the quest? Because I thought that was brilliant. Like where they're getting the whistles and shit set the
Yeah, and
the
then
oozes in the shop.
Yeah, and just the fact that the horse is buggered off as well.
Yeah.
Hitting the tank. Well, that
It's like,
one
we don't have enough
fits.
money.
It's the fact that one of them is just a friggin' truck,
Yeah.
and then Rundle House Code falls in. He's like, this is my destiny.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a lorry driver.
Because we got so little of the joyous Rundle House Code comedy. And
Which is sad, because like the only time he was mainly on screen, like in the entire second half, was with Isuzu's arc. But he wasn't the over exuberant, like bubbly version of himself. He wasn't the
just
happy
be
dog.
serious.
He wasn't the happy dog Runduru House Code. He was the loyal dog Runduru House Code. He was there, and he
it's
was.
because he's an adventurer now.
Yeah, I guess.
If I can take one thing away from it, at least he did Orb of Laba once.
Oh, Bubba.
That's all I needed. I was just like, yes, he did that. That's fine.
And then he spent like the entire second star, which was like the best.
Yeah. Oh man, Rundle House
Call
Code
me
again.
Hunsan.
Needs more House Code. Just
Yep.
season 3. He'd better be the main character. That's all I want.
He won't be, but.
I know, but
I do kind of wish we had more of an arc around him, because I kind of wish they went into more detail of what his life is like now, because he's an adventurer.
Because they don't talk about the reasons of him being
Yeah.
an adventurer now, and then there's the whole fact that he briefly mentions his parents, and it's like, well, okay, well that's something that could be quite interesting. How does his
Yeah.
family feel about him being an adventurer now?
Yeah, I actually wouldn't have minded seeing a bit more of like flashbacks of him pre when he actually met up with Log Horizon in general. I wouldn't mind of seeing the reasoning as to why he decided an adventurer for a while, how he was actually able to get into that training camp despite being a person of the land when nobody else thought that was even possible. Like,
Yeah, because that's like a plot point that could easily spawn lots of interesting stuff. Just generally, sort of what's going on in the heads of the people of the land. Because I mean, in the first season, one of the things that we discussed in the last episode was the whole kind of thing of them feeling too human to be, and then we sort of got our heads around that. But now, if they're too human to be NPCs and they're doing very human things, if we sort of learn their side of the story a little more, yeah, there could be some interesting territory there. Yes.
Yeah, like I say, I feel like it was probably the most entertaining arc to me. It was the one where I was genuinely excited to watch the next episode.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest, it was just like, oh, I suppose I'll watch another one. This one was like,
Yeah.
I want to.
I would have been more like that with like the raid arc if it wasn't for the fact that it kept on being interspersed and had the fluff episodes and so forth. Because I enjoyed those, but
Well, I think the main thing is that like this arc was its own little adventure, and it also had sort of bigger implications with little things that were happening. Whereas the raid arc was very much, this is the big thing that we need to achieve at the end. Between now and then, it's action.
Yeah.
Whereas this has got little things here and there to make you go, oh, and it's got them doing concerts and playing the old the ED and everything. Zuto! It's great. It's got everything you need, and it's even got them forgetting the horses had a 6-hour time to the distance.
yeah.
I like the bit when they did the cart, and then Minori wanted to draw a giraffe on it, and they were like, "Don't draw a giraffe on it."
And then it had a giraffe on it.
Had a
anyway.
giraffe on it anyway.
That was adorbs.
Yeah, I just love those guys, and I think part of the reason why I enjoyed this so much is because I pretty much spent the entire first half of the season going, "Where are the kids? I want to see more of the kids."
Yeah.
There they are. Wait.
Because they got a good amount of they got a lot more development than most of the other side characters did in season 1. That made them more likable. They had like their little individual traits.
I actually think a lot more development than even Akatsuki with the fact that she had her own arc. Because she
Yeah.
didn't really develop at all. It was just some random adventure with Akatsuki because Shiroi wasn't around. That's what it felt like.
I think it's because Akatsuki is a lot simpler a character than a lot of the other people with like what her role is. So when they try and do something like that with her, it doesn't feel right.
They try to give a lot more focus on characters that are kind of more aside, like Soichiro, for example, the leader of what's West Wind, is it?
Yeah, his
The
own
guild.
guild. Yeah.
The guild is just basically all women and then him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
His
that one
harem.
other bloke. I just felt like a lot of attention was given to those guys, and while that was kind of nice, I was like, I don't care about any of these characters. I mean, Soichiro's pretty cool, but I want to see more of people that you actually develop. 25 episodes before this.
I think a lot of it is outside of Shiroi's group and the people who are actually sort of actively doing things to progress the plot in a big way. It's the little guys. This group are people who progress the plot in smaller, these little things that end up having larger relevance. And when you have sort of these other little groups like Shoichiro and some of the other, the things that they do, they're cool and they have a thing that's happening when they're happening, but outside of that, it doesn't have any like bigger picture.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Next episode is Roe 2 showing up.
Yeah.
Which she's amazing.
I love Roe too. She was
I loved her
awesome.
so much. She was such a good character.
I just feel like the big reveal kind of towards when she sent that letter to Shiroi, and it was all like, oh yeah, by the way, I was created by aliens from the moon, and they want your adventure stuff, so they brought you
I
in.
borrowed this alt of yours, and I was like, no, no. I liked the idea of a female version of Shiroi who just decided to be a wandering person for a while.
I was so confused by the opening. Like, when they show her for that split second in the opening, I was like, that's not Shiro. Because obviously you only see her face. So it's like, it's just Shiro with more feminine features and longer hair. So it's like, is that like a young Shiro?
Were you just like, Studio Dean,
when
what
I
have
first
you done?
saw that, what I actually thought was because there was 3 of them there. There was Shiroi at the computer, which I assumed was like him in real life, and then I was like, there's the Shiroi we know on the left, and then on the right I thought, oh, it's gonna be his new outfit. That's what I thought it was.
See, with me, because I'm blind as a bat and I was sitting at the other end of the room, I just thought it was two Shiroes. I didn't make that connection until after Roe 2 got introduced. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Character. Felt the vampire thing was a bit unnecessary.
Well,
but
I don't think it was
a source of
unnecessary.
comedy, at least.
It was a sort of really do anything, but it was a nice little bit of background as to, this game had vampires, and this is kind of the problem with it now that everybody's real.
Yeah.
Because she's trying to get rid of it because she wants it gone so that she can actually spend time out in the day.
Then there was that bit right at the end where she's just out in the sunlight, and even though what's her name gives her the parasol, she didn't seem affected by it anyway. She was just like, "Call me big sister while I melt."
I reckon she's just and she's just like, she wants to lie down all the time indoors, and so she tells that lie to everyone. She wears like little inserts.
I thought it was adorable, like when she first turned up, and then she's just like hiding in the carriage. She's like, "Oh,
darkness
burns."
I am the night.
She was quirky, and I really enjoyed her. There should have been more of her.
Yeah,
and
I like
not just of her, but more like that, because that's the kind of comedy and the entertainment that I enjoyed of the show, but we just didn't get enough of it.
Well, it's just if we think of new characters and new characters introduced for comedy, we've got Roe 2 versus Tetra.
Tetra was not comedy. Tetra was annoying.
She was just
I don't know, man. I can't choose.
I just don't get it. When going back to Tetra, like when she was introduced, it felt like she was gonna do something, and she was there the whole show. She had fuckloads of screen to do anything.
But Alan, she's a bloke.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Oh,
like we haven't seen that before.
Yeah. Oh man. It would have been funnier if she actually looked like a bloke. If it was like that guy from West Wind.
If it was just Demicas.
Just Demicas in a dress. That would have been fantastic. I'm a Galactic Idol. It's his alt.
And then he starts singing.
Alright.
It's a new song. It's the song of death.
This leads into Odyssey Nights and Massive Wyvern Storm.
That was cool.
Yeah, man.
When you first see them lugging, this is part of the reason why I enjoyed this arc so much as well, because you see the Odyssey Knights lugging that thing, and like I didn't even think that it was like a portable cathedral. My first thought was just like a childish sense of, what is that? Yeah. What is that? I want to know what that is.
And then it was like, oh, it's a portable cathedral, and you're like, what's the implications of this?
Oh shit!
Really cool thing for them to introduce, and I like the fact that because the Odyssey Knights are, for plot reasons, like brain dead, they didn't have to into interesting characters, but that worked.
They were interesting on their own, just through the circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. Like them as a concept is what made them interesting.
Even down to the design of that little mini cathedral thing, because it just looked weird. Like it was like the gravestone thing with the wires poking out of it, and then like the demon stuff coming out of the cracks. I was like, this is really compelling. And then they do the whole thing of, oh yeah, it means we can just die straight back into the fight, and we like dying, and the whole thing of like, oh, I want to die first. No, me first. Look over here. And how crazy that fight was, because obviously in all of season 1 and then throughout like the first half of season 2, all the fights have been really coordinated, because Minori kind of doing their control thing. So then you've got these guys just going balls to the wall, anchor howls all over the place,
and they're just seeing more people do anchor howl is so good.
Yeah,
that's like my favourite move.
So yeah, that was really good. I just liked how manic it was. It was pure chaos.
It was
something
pure
we've not really seen
contrast beyond anything else. And it was also a case of sorry, I'll say one thing quickly.
No, go on.
It was just like, this is so opposite how we've drilled how adventurers think. Like, the only adventures we've seen in their sort of, in terms of methods of wanting to leave, has been Shiroi's sort of calculated style of it. And this is them going like, fuck it. We're going to go brain dead. We're going to do this. We're going to kill ourselves over and over again. We want to leave reasons because we hate this place.
It's a stark contrast, like you say, to, take it, for example, earlier in the series, that one girl that got by the Royal Guard guy. And she's like, oh no, I'm dying, as if it's a really big deal. Yeah. And it is. It is, because obviously if you were in that position, you don't know. You don't know if you're actually going to wake up. Every time you die, there's always going to be that question of, what if I don't wake up?
Yeah.
So why she felt like that kind of dread, and it, like every adventurer feels that, regardless of whether they come back or not. And then you just got these guys who don't give a shit.
No, they do give a shit, but they like it.
Well, yeah, well,
they're
exactly.
like, man, I want to die
they
again.
Give a shit for the opposite reasons. The other thing as well, the reason why I like this is because the whole Wyvern thing came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it did.
It was just like they were just travelling along, bloody blah. Oh
Well, but they were off to kill a wyvern, I think, was the whole point.
One. For their magic goo.
Magic bag.
Which Minories looked like a giraffe, which was amazing.
Yup.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I was like, oh, you can customize them? That's amazing.
Wouldn't it have been awesome if Rundle houses looked like a dog?
No, Rundle houses would look like a truck.
And it would look like it would look like a lorry, yeah.
That'd be awesome. But yeah, so like that I think the reason why that one is a favourite among like three of us is probably because that felt more like season 1 than any of the rest of it did.
Yeah.
It was more of what we liked from the first season.
It wasn't unbroken, it had lots of likeable characters. It was just a nice arc that had important and interesting things happening in it constantly, and it was an adventure. And the rest of the show is sort of so disjointed.
It just didn't have any like everlasting consequences, which is the only disappointment I had with it, because it was like, oh well, like Toya had the talk with the guy, and then suddenly his mindset's changed, but then they retcon that right back at the end.
Exactly, and we don't really see him that much after that either, so we don't, you know, it's like, well, what's gonna happen?
They're like, oh no, now we're back in Akihabara. Now the main cast is back in the spotlight, and I'm just like, but
what about them?
And it just leads on to the end, like the final kind of mini arc, as it were. The whole thing, everyone's fallen asleep.
Hey man, before that, we've got Nyanta fighting on top of a train.
That kind of happens during this.
That was sick.
That was a train. I mean,
cool. and the bit where like she launches that guy and he just lands on the rotating gears, and it's like,
oh yeah,
that was pro.
Because that was the moment that I was like, this girl is awesome.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. She had a moment of badass. When you have a character that needs to do something to prove that they're a badass, so you prove that you're a badass by instantly taking out this guy that Nyanta's had with. Because we already know that Nyanta's a badass. Mm-hmm. So when he's having trouble with someone, to have somebody just come in and wipe the floor with it, and be like, okay, she's actually kind of a threat. And then Nyanta basically almost kills her twice.
Yeah, she's just immediately negated.
Yep.
Yeah, which I thought was depressing. I was like, no! Like, do something. At least bring them to equal terms and then force a situation that has to knock Nyanta to one of the back cards and dislodge it or something, just to get them off their tail.
Part of it is when you look, it's the first thing that I thought as well is when you see their levels, because she was like level 62,
yeah,
and Nyanta was level 94, and it's like, I was like, okay, well, there's a big discrepancy there, but they make this big point of saying that levels don't really matter, individual skill.
Oh yeah, speaking of levels, was it that when this stopped being a game or whatever, did the level cap increase to 100?
Yeah.
And the level cap was originally 90.
Oh yeah, it was part of the expansion, wasn't it?
Yeah, because basically like everyone's 90 at the beginning, and then at this like people randomly seem to be like 92, 94. I was like, okay, has there been an expansion? And we had the one level 100 guy, which was the from front of the box hanging around with...
Yeah,
froggy guy.
That NPC.
Yeah,
that was quite cool though. I quite liked him, just being like, I'm an important person. I've got to find my friends.
And so I did kind of think that was a little odd, because I know how MMOs usually work, and when the level cap gets raised, that's like the first thing that everybody does. And I realized that the apocalypse happened, so there would have been a bit of a delay. But then I was really into it. Like, I expected Damikos to be 100.
Yeah,
because that just kind of seems like his mindset. He wanted to prove that he's better than Shiroi, so we just go out and level grind.
Unless it's just like righteously hard to get those extra levels now.
In which case, that one guy who had 100, bravo.
Yeah, but he was an NPC. He was probably just given it an extra 10 levels.
Maybe they do. I mean, they make the point of like saying, well, they're train lobies, and the people of the land they say
lobies. I just like with that. I just think of earlobes, just earlobes wandering around.
Because what is it? I've forgotten his name now. The leader of the guy in the big arm. Is it Sid? I want to call him Isaac. That's
Isaac.
Where did Sid come from? Isaac basically says, "Oh yeah, we can have him level 90 in a couple of days." And then Shiroi's like, "Well, no, that's we need actual training."
Yeah.
Because all the levels seem to do now is just dictate what skills you have.
Yeah.
It's like I said, more about individual skill, and it was like, okay,
how much
we'll give it,
experience you've had with
Yeah.
those skills.
So yeah, so it's I think that kind of brought that point into it, but you immediately get that idea of, well, she's 30 levels lower than Nyanta, so she's clearly gonna lose, and then she does, which even more kind of goes, well, clearly there is a big difference here.
It's just because Nyanta's a badass, though.
Yeah,
That's true.
He's a
Nyanta's kind of a
swashbuckler.
badass.
Can you imagine Nyanta losing ever? Swashbuckler is the coolest class ever.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. No, it's just because Nyanta has that class to him.
Yeah, man.
He really seems like he's royalty or descended from royalty or something, and he just adds Nyan to the end of everything he says. It's just like
Bloody 50-year-old bloke that plays online games.
Yep. And this tiny little girl who may or may
Between,
not be a tiny.
last time
chasing
we
after him.
talked. Did either of you guys actually end up listening to the dub for the first season at all?
No.
Not yet. No, I haven't.
Because Nyanta sounds so different from how he acts. No, he sounds like
Have they
he
put
sounds
like
like a black guy from the Bronx.
Okay.
And he just adds Nyan.
Still say meow, or does he go meow?
No, he goes meow. He goes meow. Yeah. He's just like, yeah, I'm a guy. Meow.
Oh god.
And I was just like, no. What happened to, like, I am a posh gentleman that says Nyan randomly?
They should have had Sean Connery voice him.
Meow. Meow.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah.
Right.
That's that.
That's that arc over. What was it I was going to say? Have I forgotten? I think I have.
I think you have, yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
might
think I have. Oh man, it was a thing as well. Yeah, the the stuff that was happening with Kaname and Froggy Guy, where they do where they fight the geniuses.
Yeah.
The like spider lady or after this. That's already happened by now, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was before.
That was another little cool fight because that was showing some different stuff. Because when Froggy Man ninja stuff in the trees,
Yeah.
that was pro.
And we actually got to see these new characters, and we were like, "Wait, we don't know these people. This is gonna be great."
Yep.
There's no status quo anymore.
And that was kind of the biggest moment in this season that actually gave Kaname some real characteristics, was when she stood up to that crazy
yeah, it actually
thing.
proves that she existed, because there was always this thought and feeling that she wasn't actually in the game when the expansion went live. Get sucked in.
And because the level 100 guy just gets sort of like broken down by this what was it? He had like all these weird vines and shit. It was scary.
Came out of his face.
Yeah, he was right minging, and then she just comes in and like,
and it worked.
yep. So that's what she does.
Things.
She's basically
That's
like
what she does. When she was in the freaking TV tower and the started going on, she just started punching it.
Yep.
It's like, no, you can't do that. You're gonna damage it.
Who she reminds me of is Makoto Nanaya from BlazBlue.
Yeah.
With her big super punches. Anyway, so we get back to Akihabara.
Yeah.
Shiroi reads the letter. Aliens on the moon. All that
Aliens.
jazz.
And
Geniuses taking over the world.
This is
Aliens
just where I
on the moon.
disconnected.
Suddenly, we need to contact the moon.
Yep.
I just disconnected
never
at this
happened.
point. I was like, what? Nah.
You got to
Well,
go
Well,
to
I
the
was
moon,
just so
'cause you
depressed
got
because
to
my
the
whole
moon,
thought
you
about her
got
actually
home.
being like him, but just his old, similar to how the Gill Spammer had a character now. I was so it was what happened, and so like no, she's a MacGuffin alien from the moon that drives the plot now, and I was like, oh, okay, so now we got to talk to the moon. So we need to find this tower. Okay. Oh, suddenly the tower's become a raid. Oh.
Yeah, everyone's fallen asleep, and we have to do a raid. Yay!
Hey man, you guys have just skipped straight past Isaac with the little prince.
I didn't really think that was anything. Like it was
It
there.
wasn't. Yeah, I did not see the relevance of that because like Isaac seemed like he was important in season 1, wasn't really.
No.
He's now here, and he's
And
not
he's
really
still
doing
not
anything important again. He's just like, we know he's a badass, and that's
Hanging
it.
out with the prince. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I think it's
Teaching
like
the people the prince
He's
a
now
little
being
sword.
king because that's a man's job.
Hey,
not
but
a
here's-
they
princess.
try to bubble everything of, oh, there's going to be war. 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 And then there's no war. Like, when's the war going to happen? I want some
Season
war,
3.
please.
The
Yeah.
war would be pretty good though. I mean that was sort of the kind of big pull of this was like, because this is like the people of the land's monarchy, and these people are trying to assassinate the prince for some reason to make war start, and they nip that one in the bud. But it's just, again, they don't do anything further with it aside from like that was it the earring that makes him know when someone's about to get assassinated.
Which was actually not what I thought it was going to be, because the box that it came in had glasses over it, and then they made a comment when the princess came in. It's like, you can't trust any of them with glasses, and I'm like, was he just given a pair of glasses and now he's going to wear them? The kid's not going to trust him anymore. That's what I thought it was going to be, but no, it's some earrings.
Best flavor text ever.
Yeah.
So now we are moving on to everyone's fallen asleep. The Butterfrees are coming.
I fell asleep.
Suddenly Shiroway is not as badass as he was. He's been distracted.
Yep. Just like, this guy was like the tactician of Debauchery Tea Party. He's meant to be the most amazing thing in the universe. Why is he being shit?
Henrietta gives him a schleip.
Yep.
Henrietta actually does something apart from molest Akatsuki.
Yeah.
Which I was shocked by that. I was like,
know,
whoa!
right?
You made her do something important.
Bravo.
What I do like about this raid though is they brought the little guys with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there was like,
well, they kind of had to. It was an impromptu kind of its point. And I was like, that's fine. I like that. That's cool. But then everybody got split up, and then
it's the little guys got to do a big thing instead of just doing their little things. Like, they're actually doing a big thing that's actually got major importance, and they're a part of it.
Possibly major importance.
Well, I assume, like, they're not going to have the, like, last arc of Season 2 being, let's get the broadcast building back to us.
Let's get the magic moon.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we can go talk to our friend over in China. So we can call China. That's what it is. That's what it turned out to be. And they never explained that. It was like, yeah, okay, well, this thing, it's set up to talk to the moon. We have to communicate with the moon. We assume it's important because as soon as we find out that we need to contact the moon, the only device that's able to contact the moon becomes a raid zone.
Yep.
Red flag. And now that they defeated the raid, they have the technology, it doesn't connect to the moon, it just magically connects to Shiroway's friend in China. Like, somebody there, like, in the group must have been like, huh?
Hey man, they're just Shiroway. If Shiroway told me to do something, I wouldn't question it.
It's true. He's badass.
He didn't
I
spend
also
any.
did kind of like, though, how right before the raid, there were like 2 moments where Shiroway almost adjusted his glasses and then just didn't.
Yeah.
So that you know something's wrong. It's like, that's how you know.
He does his whole full control encounter.
Yep. That's it.
I just felt, I don't know, that last arc just didn't do it for me.
Because it came and go so quickly in comparison to like the entire first half of the show.
Well, that was the kind of thing, because it was like, oh, it's a raid. So then I was thinking, okay, well, there's only like 2 episodes left, so it's going to be a really short raid.
They start to introduce the whole, like, the whole geniuses thing, because obviously they've been appearing over the course of the series.
Mm-hmm.
They appear in China. There's one, I'm pretty sure one is in Plant Huayden.
Because of that one marriage guy, when they actually first hit him in the face and his little thing went all buzzy and stuff, I was like, so does that mean that one person of the land, was he a genius too? The one that took over the knight armor?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, possibly. And they just seems like, and then they kind of go,
I guess
I'm
that
a
makes
monster
sense.
now. Yeah. But they don't, they sort of, I believe Roe 2 sort of explains what they are. She just explains what they're after.
Yeah.
Which
They're
is
after
the whole,
mana, something.
yeah, or whatever it was called.
MP.
Was it MP though? Because that was just what the butterflies are taking. They were after a specific thing that only adventurers have. I can't remember what it's called. I want to say something like empathions or something.
It was specifically empathions, is what it was.
And it was just like, right, okay.
Which I think is MP, because empathions.
MP. Ooh.
Maybe.
Ooh.
But yeah, again, it's just, I think everything that we've pretty much said leads into the point that we all made at the start of the episode, which is, this is a bridge season.
Yeah.
It's a bridge season, and that makes me sad. Because it doesn't go anywhere on its own.
Yeah, and like, season ended, and if it was like season 1, because when season 1 ended, it wasn't too long after that they announced season 2.
Yeah.
Like, season 2 now ended in April, and here we are now, and we still know nothing.
It'll get a season 3. Like, it has to. Log Horizon's popular enough. I'm not sure how they're doing with light novels.
Yeah.
at the moment, which is actually something I wanted to bring up in the another sort of big way I think this show's been like it has is very, very much a bad case of light novel syndrome. If you've got basically a novel where you've got stuff that happens in that novel and then they need to resolve that stuff and then start another novel so it's actually good when you're reading it. It's a big deal in like Index and stuff. It's got that, but then it's got things that carry over for longer and then little bits that sort of just make it coherent. So it's definitely suffered in that regard.
Yeah. I wonder if it'll still be Dean doing season 3, or it should be a different studio
Dunno.
altogether.
I would think that if it's going to continue, it's probably going to be Dean, because I've never seen. I don't think there's been a show that's actually survived 3 production houses. I've seen shows transfer from one to the other. That's happened before. Happened with Full Metal Panic and with Spice and Wolf. Those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. But I've never seen it transfer a 3rd time.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I suppose I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to keep hold of it as well, because it is quite a popular thing.
Yeah.
But
they don't make it because there's not enough for a 3rd season out of what's in the light novel. So then they start waiting for the light novel, and then it just becomes, well, there's no point now because
because it's not popular anymore.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. It would be nice though, because
it needs it, man. Without it, this season's so broken.
But it's like we said. If a season 3 doesn't exist, season 2 might as well not exist.
Yeah, watch season 1 and you ignore the last scene, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even ignore the last scene. Other shows have done that before, and it allows you to kind of your own guesses, like the kind of projections that I made about season 2 after watching that scene. We're more exciting than this season.
Yeah.
Or just pretend that season 2 doesn't exist, and anytime people ask about it, it's just like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to season 2 if they ever do it.
Yeah.
We'll just see, like, on the chart, Log Horizon 2 by satellite, and we go, oh, what? GI Fish back in action.
One thing that really kind of, just as we're talking about studios now, the one thing that really kind of jarred me, sometimes you couldn't really notice it, which was fine, but other times you really could, when they did flashbacks to season 1 and from the old season, so the art style is completely different.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's cheating.
Well, they're not going to reanimate flashbacks.
Well, no,
yeah,
not.
that didn't make sense. Like, I understand why they did
it's
it.
like, whoa, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
Any other thoughts before we move into like visuals and stuff like that?
Wrapping it up, yeah.
Not really. I think we've kind of driven home throughout the course of this.
So, but I think it's safe to say that we would all definitely watch a season 3. We're invested in it. And I definitely, like, even if in advance I was told season 3 was only going to be as good as this one was, I'd still watch it. I think I enjoyed this one enough.
It's the whole hope, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you think it was this good once.
But here's actually a question.
It might be that good again.
Exactly.
Here's another question though. Do you think a 3rd season is all it would need?
It could
wrap
be.
Things up?
You could wrap everything up. They could have wrapped it up this season if they wanted to, but they chose not to. They chose
if they did another full 25, they'd have to resolve several things. They'd have to resolve the whole genius thing. They'd have to resolve the Plant Whedon thing and find out what the fuck they're on about. The whole war that's been bubbling under the surface.
Kaname.
And then Kaname.
And then Kaname, and now Rurouni 2 and the whole moon thing and getting home.
And
I think this whole season's just been introducing new plot threads that they don't do anything with. It's like they think, oh, this is a good idea, let's start working with that. And then, like, halfway into introducing it, they get bored, and they decide to go start working on something else.
And I'd also like some sort of closure on the Odyssey Nights. Like, their grand plan actually does something.
Well, the thing is, they say that thing, the whole... in season 1, they bring the idea of, when you die, you lose a bit of your memories. So, what happens with the Odyssey Nights? Are they eventually just going to become husks at some point? With no memories, they just live to die? Because that would be quite interesting. One thing I will say is, one thing will stop me from watching
they
season
die,
3.
they live again.
The one thing that will stop me from watching Database isn't the opening.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm very happy that they kept that. Like, the first episode I watched, I was like, damn, yes, they kept Database.
Yep.
That's
It's the same. It's just Database is so good.
like I expected them to change it because it usually always happens.
Yeah,
especially when it's a
Database-
different studio.
Yeah, they've changed studio and it's a new season.
Yeah.
But they still kept the opening. I feel like
Yeah.
that's probably one of the best decisions they made.
I do adore that, but like, there is literally no other song that could follow Database, and there is no song more relevant than Database.
Beta Dace.
It's so good. Before we move on to visuals, I just want to bring up again how salty I am about Krusty. I love that guy. Season 1 Krusty, yeah? He's so good. This season...
That's the other thing they get to resolve. How the hell did that happen, and now how is he getting back?
Again,
he's still got an arm.
If they're entirely going, yeah, it's because of the flavor text, he's fine now. Here's your hand, love, that I found. It's like, ugh.
But the thing is,
he's got cracks, he's so cool!
Not only did they write him out of the entire season, but also, when they do bring him back and they reveal where he's been, it's just boring. Like, what I would have liked to have seen
I've been in China!
What would have been cool is if they did the little side thing in China with Kaname and the others, and Krusty turns up as a friggin' raid boss.
Yeah.
Like he's been transformed into a monster, and they have to beat him to get him out, and they're like, oh shit, there's a guy in there. Let's take him with us.
They could easily have drilled in that tried and true plot point of the guy you know becomes evil and you have to defeat him to make him good again.
It was called, what was it called? It was, the site was called Disaster, like that.
Yeah.
So that would have been perfect.
Maybe that is still the case. Maybe he's with them, but he's like thawing this negativity. Scary
He seems
stuff.
The
pretty
site
upbeat
has done
to me.
something to me.
Like, he has the arm with him, like, all wrapped up on a sling, which I thought was kind of weird, but...
I wonder if, like, do things go mouldy in this world? What would have happened if he tried to eat that hand?
It's all the weird things that stay a game.
Oh, I just want to know, like, when he actually gives her hand back, is he just going to go...
Did they try to reattach it, like, get there halfway, then kill her, so that it all disappears and it comes reformed?
I would just be like, this robot arm's badass. I think I'll leave it.
Until she wakes up in the real world and doesn't have an arm. It's like, oh, where's my auto mails?
What she doesn't know is the real world. Yeah. Robot arm. That was cool.
Yeah, it was.
Thing is, if she's now, will she come back with an actual arm?
It's true. It's possible. She could do.
It all depends on like.
I think she should have a hand. They could put like robot attachments on there. She could have a drill.
A drill that could pierce the heavens and get them to the moon.
Give us a
exactly.
glove. Oh shit! Sorry.
No, she'll have the drill hand. I'll send her to the moon. She'll plug it into the moon. The moon will transform, and then they'll go into the galaxy. Anyway,
yeah.
Visuals.
Yeah.
I would say there were points when I was cringing. Like, little bits here and there where I was like, oh my god, that
You could
looks
tell it was done by it wasn't as polished, I don't
For
think.
the most part, it kept the fidelity of the characters. So when you looked at it, you knew that this person was this person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, but in certain cases, when they changed the outfits quite dramatically, that got a bit difficult. Case in point, Marielle.
Yeah.
Because basically, they made Marielle look like she hadn't washed her hair for a few months.
Yeah.
So when you put her in a different costume as well, I was like, who the fuck's that? Oh, it's Marielle. What?
Until then she opens her mouth and is like,
Yeah.
now it's Hugu.
Yeah, and it's just like, right, okay. So yeah, like they made a good go of it, I feel, but I didn't like it. I think that's because the thing is though, we were spoilt by the visuals of season 1.
Apart
Kind
from
of,
the CGI fish.
Well, apart from
I think
So,
the sort of general design is still there and still solid. I did really like the new designs of some of their like now it's armor, Shiraway's new jacket, stuff like that. And like I think during the action scenes it was pretty solid. Like in anything high paced.
The only thing I didn't like about Naotsuku's new outfit is they kind of slimmed him down a bit.
Yeah.
I liked his original outfit where he was big and chunky.
He seems more serious now in that outfit, which is a problem.
Yeah, I know. Naotsuku isn't serious. But yeah, I liked Akatsuki's new outfit. It was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
And yeah, quite a few of the new redesigns were pretty nice. It was just a case of just the actual visuals as a whole.
The one thing that I did think that was kind of weird was how Shiroi and Natsuku got their new outfits right before the final raid boss. Where did those come from? Why haven't you been using those?
Maybe they were a Phantasm level drop from one of the other bosses or something.
They did the thing as well with the raid. When they beat the raid, they get that necklace thing, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give this to Shiro."
I'll give this to Shiroi. He never gives it to Shiroi. I swear we don't see that happen.
Yeah, and we don't see it. We don't know what it does. Well,
I think the flavor text said something that it could be interpreted to the effect of you could die without losing your memories.
Okay.
And I thought that was going to be a plot point, but then I totally forgot about it until you guys just brought.
It turn up in like
that
season
happened.
4. Just be like, oh,
So
by the
many
way,
plot points, bro.
Can you
it's
imagine,
necklace
like,
I was given.
No, if he like randomly slips that necklace into the pocket of one of the Abyssal Knights, and he's just like ruins your plan. You're not going to keep losing your humanity. Like this guy, like he gets given it, and then he gets all his memories back after he dies, and he just turns up and he's like, "What the hell am I doing?
What's this thing?
What the hell? Why are you acting so weird, bro? What the hell?"
I'm gonna die.
I ain't gonna hold it.
That was a party.
In terms of music, obviously, it was
A lot of it was the same.
pretty sure it
Like, a lot
was.
of
Yeah,
it
it was
the same
from
OST
season
from
one,
the first
which
season.
I don't
I
actually
had no problems
remember,
with that at all.
besides like the obvious new song, the 43rd song, besides things like that. I didn't really notice any of the background music that was actually new from the
No.
first season. Like there was probably a few tracks in there that were new, but the majority of it was reused from,
Yeah.
which seems like a
Those
lot
were,
of the
they,
things.
they were the only ones that I noticed. If there were any new ones in there at all, I only noticed the old ones.
Mhm.
I think it's because they kind of reserved that for the kind of the more awe-inspiring ones. Because you have the kind of Celtic style one that was kind of whenever something like good was happening, and
Yeah, and then you had the vocal choir one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so yeah, those were the most noteworthy, which I didn't have any problem with it because I remember the first season. But it is a shame they didn't really bring anything new to the table in terms of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I do actually want to bring up, moving slightly back into animation, is did anyone else feel that the animation in the OP was proper jank by comparison to the first season? Like, you know the bit where it does the big camera pan whoosh up all of the different people, and it's just like going past it, and the frames are just sticking, and it's like,
Yeah.
that doesn't look great.
I did like the actions. I think they were done pretty well.
Yeah.
They were done surprisingly well. I thought it was
Yeah.
better than what I thought. Yeah.
Especially considering that the action in the first season was quite rigid in comparison.
Yeah, I would definitely say the action scenes in season 2 were better than.
So yeah.
Shall we move on to final thoughts, or did you have anything
Sure.
to say about the EDs? Because I don't really.
Most of the time, I just skipped it, moved on to the next episode.
Yeah.
It was all right.
There was nothing on the level of
Murakatsuki being cute, yeah.
Can't go wrong with
one was
that.
pro.
Yeah.
Though we did get
And
to
then
hear it at least on a
They
loop.
sung it. They sung it like Isuzu didn't need to watch the end.
Exactly. We got a nice acoustic variant.
Yeah, man.
Anyway.
By
final
Miss
thoughts.
Isuzu.
Miss Isuzu. Rundel Hasukodo.
Runduru
Rudy.
Hasukodo.
Orb of Lava.
My sister. It's Emily.
It's Emily.
Right. I still very much enjoyed Lock Horizon Season 2. In terms I was done, I was like, I enjoyed that. But there were lots of parts throughout the show where I'm just like, why? What? Where are you going with this? Why aren't you going further with that other thing? And then by the time, obviously, getting to the end, repeating ourselves endlessly. If this doesn't have a Season 3, this show doesn't need to happen. Like, everything from this show can't exist without a second season. Whereas the first season could easily have stood on its own. If this season never happened, I wouldn't have looked back on Log Horizon Season 1 and gone, man, that show needed a sequel. Good. But I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed a lot of the little new things happening here and there. And whilst it did have its fair share of problems, I'm definitely happy I watched it. And I'm happy that we got to do this episode on it. And I'm glad that you were able to join us for it, Tristan. So I think it was 6 out of 10. I think that's what he gets. So Abby, what do you think?
So
Obviously, she loves it.
Yeah, like she's on a honeymoon with Shiroi, so she must have enjoyed it to some extent.
Yeah.
definitely. We should have asked her for a statement.
It's true.
Never mind. Maybe we'll get one and we'll put
Too
it on
late
Twitter.
now.
Yep.
We'll put it on Twitter. We'll just be like, this is what.
Yes. Right. Cam.
You wanted to full name.
Almost did, and then I stopped.
Yeah, I felt it.
stopped.
I felt it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, yeah, more of the same, really. It's just, I mean, Lock Horizon Season 2, I went into it expecting a lot, which I think, unfortunately, was its biggest pitfall, because it didn't deliver what it promised at the end of season 1. There were some good bits, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. In a rare case as well, I actually enjoyed the filler episodes, which doesn't happen too often. So that was good. But I just, like I said at the start, I feel like it took too long to get into something really that I really enjoyed. Before I knew it, that was over, and we were back to boring stuff again.
Yeah.
And like you said, Tristan, it throws out all these loose ends, but doesn't tie anything up. And so, again, you know, if there isn't a season 3, this season is completely moot. And with all with the change in studio, the change in style, one thing I liked about the first season was how clean it was, and kind of go into this slightly more, I want to say, like jaggedy kind of art.
It's Jank Horizon.
Yeah, that didn't really click with me. I got used to it after a while, and there were moments that did look really good. Like I said, the action was surprisingly really good, and I'm not biased towards studios, unlike some people I know. But that's just simply through ignorance. I'm not aware of what studios have done what. All I know is that Studio Dean did the original Fate Stay, which is a black mark, to be fair. But yeah, my knowledge is little. But I didn't get as much out of this show as I was hoping for, and that was like a really big disappointment. So in terms of scoring goes, I can't actually remember what I gave season 1.
I think all of us gave them 8s and 9s.
I think it
was high.
We really I want to say 8.
I think he gave it an 8. Yeah.
I want to say 8. So this would get a 6.
Yeah.
And the only reason it didn't score 5 is because of those bits that I really enjoyed. That saves it going into the territory of mediocre. But to be honest, if I wasn't watching this for Club, I probably would have dropped it at some point. Then again, though, to be fair, I could say that about season 1 as well. So I just feel like I would have dropped earlier.
Yeah. Well, for me, I can't really sum it up any better than what we were saying mostly at the intro of this, and then what you guys just stated now. It's to me, it was like an enjoyable disappointment. I liked watching it. I enjoyed myself, but I was disappointed because it didn't meet what I expected it to be. And that was my thoughts. That was it. Nutshell right there. I can't even remember what I gave it last time I was here. It's probably different, but this would probably be just a 5.
If you gave it a 6, we would have had a very demonic rating between us.
The overall consensus is season 1 wrote checks that season 2 couldn't cash.
Pretty much.
No, well, season 1 wrote a check that bounced, and then season 2 started gambling to try and make up for it.
And now it's just in a ditch on the side of the road.
A ditch covered in petrol on fire.
We'll sing Wonderworld for DVD sales.
We were going to do an acoustic version of the ED, but yeah, we decided we didn't want to do that, so here's Wonderwall.
And that about wraps things up. Once again, I would like to say everyone who's watching right now, all 70 of you, I would like for you to head on over to twitter.com/BizarreJelly5 and tweet at her and say get well soon, so that she's good for when we come back on the 11th of July to talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusader Season 2. Oh my god!
No, you think you're going to be talking about Stardust Crusaders, but it is I! Deal!
And that is so much more relevant, because he's finally going to turn up.
Exactly! Spoilers. God.
Sorry.
And, we have asked our friend Sean Tsar, who was with us on the last Stardust Crusaders, to join us, but he isn't sure if he's going to be able to yet, so we might have him, we might have someone else, no confirmed guest as of yet, but I can tell you for sure. The rest of us will be there, and we'll be hype.
Oh, so hype.
Tristan, thank you a bajillion for coming on again.
A bajillion.
You're welcome a bajillion.
It's always a pleasure. Because we
It's
don't
always
get to
fun
talk
having
much
you on
because
the
you're
show,
always
Tristan.
busy.
Likewise, I enjoy coming on a lot. It's a shame that Evie wasn't able to join us, and that
Yeah.
we weren't able to do this back on Saturday. So
And well, she'll be on next time you're on, whenever that'll be, for whatever show that'll be.
Season 3 of Log
Yeah.
Horizon.
No,
Season 3 of Log Horizon.
I think he'll be on
Following
before then.
Season 3 of Mushishi.
Yeah.
I just hope that if there is a season 3 of Log Horizon, the episode that we do on that one is a lot more upbeat than this one.
Yeah, I'd hope so, because it'll be by like.
So this is like
it'll
a
be by
bridge
Madhouse
episode.
or something. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. This episode can't exist without the third one.
Third season.
Good job, OKKO.
With that said, I has been Backshift. This has been Tensei Twonky. This has been Reflection. It has been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all on the 11th for JoJo's.
Bye.
Later.
Bye, data, bye. Just saying the data, bye.
Whoa.